Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 9th, 2024 Abington Finance Committee meeting. We have a pretty good agenda in front of us tonight, and as I'm going through it, I'll point out that I forgot to check correspondence. We are going to start. Item number 1 on our agenda is welcoming our newest member to the committee, Abby Gendro. Abby, welcome.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you. We can kind of quickly go through, give you introductions for who's on the committee. Let's start with Daniel, who just introduced himself to you here.
Did, yes, well,
Matt, we know each other.
Madison's choir father.
Yeah.
Greg.
Nice to meet you.
Me. Chris Murphy.
Nice to meet you.
How you going, Marty? Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Sarah.
Nice to meet you. I'm Abby.
I'll also say a welcome to Marty's beard, which looks awesome.
Thank you.
That's new. That's new since last time, so looking good. We have on the agenda an update from our town manager, discussion about the fall town meeting, which is coming up in a couple months. No, next month.
Next month.
Assigning liaisons for the next fiscal year, for the current fiscal year. Reports from liaisons. We will not have correspondence because I didn't check. Reviewing any minutes, which I do think we have one that we didn't have enough people at our last meeting to review. And discussing when our next meeting will be, foreshadowing, probably going to be October 23rd. 2 weeks. So starting off, for Abby's benefit, town manager Scott Lambiase,
Nice to meet
town
you.
accountant Andrew Noka.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
Is that the right pronunciation?
Yes.
99% sure. Andrew's a tough one. All right, Scott, what do we got?
Well, I do have copies of what the draft warrant looks like right now. So if you want to take one, pass it around. It's, right now, it's just the 2 articles, and we don't expect more to show up, but I guess it's possible. One of them is the amendment to South Shore VOTEC regional agreement. And the second one just came in today. It was from the community preservation. They would like to use some of their money that they put into reserves for the softball field, redoing the softball field, I guess.
Part of the overall project? Or
No, the softball field's
the
on the other
softball field's
side.
over to the other side.
Yeah, where we
but-
did the new dugouts. I think they want to actually do that field over, so it's separate from the big project. But I'm sure Kelly will be happy to come in and talk about it. So the warrant closes on the 13th. We have not received any interest for citizens petitions at this time. So I'm expecting that this will be it. Not really a big draw. I don't know, probably have a difficult time getting a quorum. But be that as it may, we will have a meeting. We'll try our
Will
hard.
we have any discussions about upcoming things?
At the town meeting?
Yeah, at the fall town meeting, will we?
Well, I think that I guess a lot will depend on the lenience of the moderator as far as discussion on South Shore VOTEC. You know, I can give a small state of the state, I suppose, if we actually have a meeting. But for the most part, I think this is separate from the actual building project, but the, you know, overall, the idea of it did come out of, you know, the talks that revolve around the building project. So I would suspect that Tom Hickey would be allowed to, you know, briefly talk a little bit about what the January vote's going to be, because there'll be a vote in January, every town will vote on the project. That project, if it gets passed by all the towns, will end up on our annual town meeting, likely to vote it as a debt exclusion, and then it'll be on the annual ballot as a debt exclusion. But at that point, in January, it will probably have already been voted one way or another, either up or down. If it is voted up, then we really do want to make sure we can get a debt exclusion for it, because one way or another, we'll be responsible for paying our portion of it. And it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to take it out within the levy. I think that the share to Abington, the last I saw, was in the $28 million range. So I'll let Tom come in and talk to, I think he's been in here before. I think you all remember several years before this, before he could get in with MSBA, the discussion was on what was going to happen to our capital program and our capital assessment. So either way, that this regional agreement, by amending it, will help the way that they look back on appropriating those costs. But
You mean
our
amending it
capital
with-
assessment will go way up if they have to just renovate the existing buildings. And I know he was in here with most of you when we were looking at that, and it was a pretty significant amount of money over a period of time. That would be money that I don't know, how we would consider paying for that. I don't know if that's something that would end up getting bonded, but again, those are the options that are going to be put to us. Tom has offered, and the chairman will discuss that, he has offered to come in and meet with us in the future.
He is available on the 23rd, which
Yes.
is why I was leaning towards that for our next meeting, which we can discuss again.
And then as far as budget preparation, we've started to schedule our meetings with the department heads. We'll reach out once you pick your liaison assignments. We'll reach out and invite you to those meetings. If anybody's available, you're welcome to come in and sit with us and/or join in through Zoom. We can put you on the big screen while we meet with the department heads. We've pretty much told everybody, it's contractual level service. At this point in time, we have had preliminary meetings with school department. The school department is going through, they're going to start negotiations. They'll be in the first year of a contract, and as we will be, because we will be in the first year of a contract with police, fire, and at least one of the others, maybe DPW. So it's going to be a very interesting budget season. As everybody knows, we used some one-time funds last year to balance the budget, and essentially we're going to have to deal with that this year, one way or another. So we did have a meeting last week, just sort of to kick off a meeting, and I invited the chair of this committee, the school committee, Board of Selectmen, and then Andrew, myself, and the school department. We met to discuss how we're going to deal with the gap, and if we wanted to go down the road of continuing on with setting up an enterprise fund for trash and waste hauling. We got a little bit ways to go with that. We expect that group to meet again, and Andrew and I are going to putting some numbers together. But essentially what we're looking for is that, if this board, the school committee, and the Board of Selectmen are all going to support that, then we have a chance of it. And if we can obviously make the case on why it makes sense to do it, then we should all follow that road. And if we don't, then we'll, have to kind of decide how we want to deal with what will ultimately be cuts in service. So that's all the good news I have for now.
You said
The heat
last-
pump in this room is working now, so we will have heat and air conditioning.
You said last week for that meeting, that was literally 2 days.
What's that? Oh, it
That was
was.
actually two
That's right, it
days.
was.
It was Monday. Which I was unable to make.
Yeah, so we will be setting another date. If it's not like convenient for you, if you want somebody else on this board to attend, but, we'll try and work it for everybody.
Yeah.
If you want to back up.
Yeah, it was unexpected that I wasn't able to make it this time, so
No problem.
I think having a backup is probably a good idea, or a second is probably a good idea.
We should be in touch. We can
Yeah.
vote on it, but we
Yep.
second usually.
Yeah, there was plenty of advance notice, I just had to.
Yeah, and there'll be, you know, we'll probably be looking at another week out, maybe, and then we'll send out a notification. And again, we did it in here, we have the Zoom available for us, so.
Would it be too soon to try and have some type of handout or something to just, at fall town meeting, that as far as,
Probably not. I mean,
just for information purposes about the trash?
I think if we're going down that road, by that time, we'll, you know, our intentions are to have meetings at the senior center. We'll do things on Abington Cable.
Not that we're going to get a
Reach out.
great turnout, but it is an opportunity that you have
He's better than that.
everybody there
Yeah.
that is there could, and I'm sure they'll tell their neighbors and.
Yeah, there'll be you know, again, it probably won't be the fully refined plan, but
Just
we'll have a pretty good
informational,
idea of what we're thinking and why we want to do it. You know, obviously, the rationale behind it.
And I think understanding the alternatives, you know, if we don't do it, what do we need to do? And as you already mentioned, we're going to cut services somewhere, so.
Everywhere.
So,
Yeah.
the things that I think are important with it are where we are overall with the budget, like what we had to do last year to get the budget balanced, what the increases are this year that we have to deal with. You mentioned contractual, but there's inflation and other increases as well. Like Daniel said, what our alternatives are. Also just assuring people that, or making sure that, we're not just going to take waste removal out of the budget, put it into a user fee, and then take all of that money and put it into the budget and be right back in
Yeah.
the same place in a year or two.
No, and there are other large ticket items that we're, you know, obviously health insurance is one of the bigger ones that we're actually working on to come up with reductions. They take a little bit longer. We probably won't see them as quickly, but
Yep.
for further down the road to try and do things to keep us safe and sound.
Who else has questions on this? Or let me rephrase that. Who else has questions right now on this? And Abby, don't be afraid to ask. One of the things we always tell new members is if you have a question, there's probably a bunch of people at home that have the same question. So don't hesitate to ask the questions. It's good, even if you think it's simple or something that everybody else on the committee knows, ask it anyway. So,
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Tyler?
another question, just a general discussion point since
Yes.
we're on, although I think it might be out of order, but I'll take your lead since we're talking about trash in the fall meeting.
That's part of the town manager's update, so. This is the section on our agenda when I was expecting this to be discussed.
I hearken back to the town of Abington in 2000, specifically with the recall election of the Board of Health as it pertains to the attempt of moving a transfer station up off of 58. I then hearken back to the Patriot Ledger and the article in 1998-ish that says Abington chooses trash over kids. But the fact and point of the matter is that an override vote was taken for the purposes of funding that trash. So I feel for the generally uninformed and/or those who are interested, stalwarts, and are aficionados of, I have something, don't take it away and don't make me pay for more. It is an obligation of this group and any other town group to be abundantly clear as it relates to what it is as a community-based benefit that is being taken, lost, or otherwise bartered or traded, and that is not a comparison to other departments. When you hear level serviced versus level funded, that means a different thing. So that means there is an increase in budget on a level service budget versus a level funded budget. So there's a disconnect in the optics of Johnny New Guy here, when I hear FY '26 is going to be, I want to be clear, this is October, and we are a far cry away from the true budgetary planning cycle, and we are a far cry away from what any draft budget could be. So this is not an indictment of the town manager. It's just more of a what I hear. And if I hear it, I'm fairly confident others hear it. And I try to be a more pensive listener, but when I hear level service, and then I hear an exchange of level service for, if we don't do something, we're going to lose something for our kids, we'll lose something for public safety, we'll lose something for our seniors, we'll lose the library. And, I think we've all learned that more than one thing can be true. So that's just my general observation and commentary, and candidly, what compelled me to come back to the group this particular cycle.
Which we appreciate. Yeah, I think it's important to lay out all of the factors. We're not, for example, looking at the entire waste removal budget and saying, if we don't create this separate fund, we have to let people go to replace the entire waste removal budget. Waste removal has been in the budget, it's increasing. What's the increase and what are the increases in other areas that we have to factor in to get to a balanced budget for the year?
I think too, Matt, the increase in the waste budget is the proportion
Yes.
of it. I think explaining that too. I think people need to have an understanding of the proportions,
Yes.
and the rate that it is more than any of our other line items. And the reasons why, an understanding of, and so that if somebody does have a better idea, understanding, how we got here, why, that it's not something it's nothing that we as a town aren't being wise with our money. It's something that everyone's experiencing, but other towns are doing, or have been doing things differently. So.
Yeah, they've been ahead of the curve.
Right, so.
Yeah, no, we've had all those discussions, and that was a big part of the discussion that we had earlier this week, and we've actually got most of that.
Because what was the percentage, do you remember what the percent increase was, Andrew, of in the last couple of years,
Right. So I did some analysis on this. I compared fiscal 18 actuals through fiscal 24. And waste collection costs increased by 56% over that time period, compared to the rate of inflation, which is 25%. So that's pretty significant.
What was the increase from 18 to, or from 19 to 20 when recycling became no longer commodified?
I don't have the raw
Because that would
data.
account for the single biggest jump, making it 56%. I don't think there was an overall cost increase of 56% over 5 years. I think it was larger in that 1 to 2 year time frame than it was for the
I think
5.
it was probably larger in that, but I think that the recycling costs had gone up.
well, that's what he was saying, right?
Before
Because of the-
It should have been 2018, should have been fiscal year 19, fiscal year 20 budget for the recyclables going higher.
We were definitely talking about it before that.
Between fiscal 20 and 21, it went up by 11%. And then,
You said between 19 and 20.
Yeah.
between fiscal 18 and 19, it was 22%. Between fiscal 19 and 20, it was 4.5%.
Yeah, so the
18,
biggest hop was
19.
when the recycling took the biggest hit.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew.
Because we have nowhere to send it.
Well, because.
No
I-
one's purchasing it.
15,
We're not.
15 years ago, we were being paid for recycling.
Mm.
Now we are paying as much to to dispose of recycling or to have recycling taken away,
I think
I
more.
think is the right way, or approximately the
Thank you.
same.
Thank you.
Approximately the same to have recycling taken away as trash taken away.
All things that have been out of our.
Do we know what the current rates are?
Yes.
Because the rates change,
So-
which is,
Trash is still more expensive than recycling.
Okay.
In fiscal '25, right now, trash per ton is $116, and recycling is $110 per ton. So
Like to say.
it's still more expensive, but it's pretty close.
so to all those at
Breaking down those
home,
boxes.
recycle more than trash, and we'll save at least a little bit.
Right.
If I remember when we started this discussion, when recycling was starting to approach the same levels as trash, the two amounts were in the 80s, maybe 70s.
They were in the 80s. when I
70s and
Very
80s.
clearly.
Yeah, those are the numbers I remember when we first started talking about this, probably in the 18, 19 range, maybe even 17.
So at some point, do we think about not recycling, or is that just still off the table?
It's not an option.
We keep saying it's not an option, and we keep saying that you could technically apply for a waiver, but the state has never actually, to the best of my knowledge at least, has never actually granted a waiver.
Well,
So-
alphabetically, we have
It's
first,
not-
we could give it a
it's not-
try.
It's not technically not an option, but it's not.
I mean, if the argument is good enough,
Again,
I understand
if-
the optics
if
of a lot of
if the
things.
if the numbers were reversed, if it were 116 for recycling and 110 for trash, or if the numbers were an even bigger disparity where it was 110 for trash and 130 for recycling, then I think it would make sense to have the discussion of trying to become the first to get a waiver like that, but
I think if
where-
that's the
where
disparity.
yeah, we might not be the
Yeah.
first if that's the disparity. But I think where the numbers are still where they are, I don't think it makes sense. Because, like I said, it is still at least a little bit of a savings to send out as much recycling as we can. And I do
then you're still
understand
in
the
the
I do
position-
understand the concept of you don't want people to get out of the habit of recycling because at some point, the hope is that the market will come back and the recycling will pick up. And then you have to get people back into the habit of recycling, so
We're
that.
pushing year 7 of saying, maybe the market's gonna come back for
That's what I
recycling.
thought.
It's more than that, because when we first started talking about it, the belief was that China wasn't taking recycling because they were mad at Trump when he first came into office. Which is
I
why I
think there's probably
remember
a bit
that
more
it's
nuance to
before.
that, but like, I
Oh,
know
it's definitely more-
Taiwan, China, and.
It's definitely more
Vietnam.
nuanced than that, because Trump's been out of office for 4 years.
Yeah,
And
the
it-
tariffs
And it didn't
is still on.
change. So,
China tariffs and stuff.
yeah, so.
And
Yeah, we
to,
can't do
it would, it's almost like
Appreciate it.
chopping our nose off to spite our face if currently it is still, $6 is $6. You're going to increase the tonnage for regular trash, pay $6 more for all those tons of what you're recycling right now. So your budget's still going to go up.
Do you happen to have our tonnage numbers?
Do. So the monthly average for fiscal '24 was 352 tons of trash per month versus recycling, which is 124 tons on average.
I thought we entered into a contract with these guys. So I might have just had a stroke, but didn't somebody just say that that rates change? So we entered into a contract that the rates change?
Yeah, we didn't enter, there's not a contract out there that doesn't go by whatever the tipping rate is they get paid on.
Got it. So it's just hey, you guys are gonna collect the trash. We'll
It
figure
goes a
out.
lot deeper than that. I think Marty could probably speak on
Yeah.
volume since we spent so much time and he spent a lot of time on it.
If it's
A lot of
annoying-
aspects to the
don't-
contract.
Don't even worry about that.
Can we have that talk over a pint?
Yeah, sure. Sure.
I mean, if $6 is $6 still, can we try to close that gap that Andrew just said, where we're not recycling as much as we're throwing away, and we can save a little bit on that?
Well, we try to do it through the health department is get people to recycle more. And they do it in different ways. They like to go out and let people know that their barrels are not necessarily where they should be.
That was fun.
Some people take it the wrong way. You know, we were hoping to, you know, maybe expand on what we would let people bring to the compost area in the future. We're working with DEP now, and it's been, I don't know, a year and a half waiting for them to tell me it's okay to do what they told me we had to do. And with that, there would be hopefully an expanded area of people could bring some recycling stuff. But unless there's a market for a commodity, if it's not a commodity, it's just,
Well, the recycling is cheaper. It's just not
it's
much.
cheaper, and the more we can get people to do it, it's a little bit cheaper.
And
I
I do
think
think
we don't know what the
Abby's
price will be.
point is if we're at least very, very basic numbers, it's not exact, but if we're doing 3 times as much trash as we are recycling, if those numbers were closer together, if it were closer to 50-50 trash and recycling, the bill, the $6 per ton would be more of an impact on the overall cost.
But what we don't know is we got this magic exception. If the next contract, they'd say, well, the truck only has to go by your house once instead of twice, does that change anything?
It's a good question.
What are you asking me for?
I don't know.
Well, I think it's because it's the tonnage, right? It's the
I'm not gonna
weight.
spend a lot of time on an
No, I
exception.
know, but
That we're not-
I mean, it could actually.
If we can,
It could reduce cost.
if
could
it reduces
cost,
the
even though the tonnage
labor
is-
costs.
It's still the tonnage, though.
I know, but labor costs are on.
Huge. I mean,
Are
there is
huge
a,
on
you know, the gas.
On the,
Vehicles
on the
burns.
side of the company that we contract with. And if we're reducing their labor costs or allowing them to spread them out to other municipalities, then perhaps we get something back in return.
That's what
But
I
again,
think-
that's all hypothetical.
Yes.
That's why I think if we could get some, I know people are frustrated about the stickers on the barrels, but I think it's because they don't understand where we're at and why, even though I'm not, and the Board of Health is, and you guys have put plenty of stuff out on the website and posted on the town pages, but I think it's still, people just aren't informed, and so they don't understand why we're doing what we're doing, and
It is a
I-
difficult thing to incentivize.
It is.
Hey, we have to recycle them, cool.
I do think.
Like, how do we incentivize?
Yeah,
Right.
I do think that education with the figures, the financial numbers of what the town has spent. I remember several years back, my company changed the health insurance percentage, what the company was spending and what the employees were spending. And one of the things that they did when they were informing us was they laid out, here's what we have spent over the last 10 years as a company on health insurance, and here's what it used to look like, here's what it looked like each of the years, and here's what it looks like now. And it made sense as to why there needed to be a change in what was done. And I think having those numbers will help people to see what the situation is for what the town is paying for trash removal. I think
That's a good point.
I think the
It's not
56%
a
increase
financial
Right.
exercise.
is,
it gives
it's
a better understanding
yeah.
that we've been good stewards.
It's a change
of
management
the-
exercise.
Of the money.
Yeah.
It's just, it's things that are out of our control, and seeing the actual figures, I think.
I think the 56% increase over the last 6-7 fiscal years is jarring for people to see, but I also think the exact, like the year-by-year numbers would be a good thing for people to see as far as education about the debate that we're going to have about this, but also as far as, hey, put more stuff in your recycling bin.
Has overall tonnage changed, or how has overall tonnage changed over the years?
I'm sure it's higher because there's been growth.
I only have fiscal '24 and year-to-date fiscal '25, and I do have some bad news. Tonnage is up 6% so far this year.
In the trash.
I assume
Yes.
that's month by month?
Month,
Not-
right, yes.
We're not up 6% over the total from last year?
No, it's compared to the average.
Because that would be
And
really.
as you can expect, that number fluctuates based on season.
Yeah, absolutely.
The December, no, January were obviously the highest ones, June, July, and August were obviously the lower ones. But it had stayed relatively consistent. I remember doing the standard deviation when I was coming in.
Dr. Tyler, I feel like something's brewing over there.
No, 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 I have months.
Okay.
You don't need to fret. Thank you for the discussion.
So what you're saying is you're in the early fermentation process.
I feel that's
It's
appropriate.
like a baby grape.
Baby grape, that's just my head.
Other questions, comments, discussion points, things you want, things you'd like to know, things you'd like answered right now? Things you think might help? All right. Next item on the agenda is the town meeting, special town meeting, fall town meeting warrant. We mentioned South Shore VOTEC and community preservation are the two warrant articles so far, and that the South Shore VOTEC is not the new building.
It is not about.
However, it is related-ish to the new building. So do you want to explain what the article is, or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, well, I think I want to say it's up on our website, it's certainly on the Social VOTEC website, the actual original agreement and then the red line change. Basically, it just spells out, I think, a capital project, such as this school project, in the way that the current regional agreement reads, that if it goes out to bond for the project, it's a snapshot in time. So whatever our enrollment is compared to other towns is exactly how we would be assessed. So I think we're the number 3 right now out of the towns that are in it. So that proportion would just stay through no matter what happened with the
Even if our
enrollment.
numbers drop.
Yeah, which is obviously unfair because our numbers can drop, but they're also bringing on other communities. They're bringing, Marshfield joined last year, as you remember, we did this for March. To bring Marshfield in, I think actually, they're in discussions with another town, might have been Pembroke.
I was going to say, I think it's Pembroke.
So we may be doing this yet again, even at the annual, to try and let another town in or another special in the near future. So what this does is every 4 years, there's a look back throughout this lifetime of this capital project.
I was confused by the wording on there where it said, current formula fixes the town's debt share. With approval of this amendment, the town's share of debt will be adjusted based on 4-year rolling averages. It doesn't say it'll be adjusted every 4 years based on the 4-year rolling average. Like with that wording, it could theoretically be adjusted every year based on the 4-year rolling average.
Don't think that's their intent, but I think when we get
I
Mr.
think-
Hickey in here,
I think
we can definitely clarify it. I haven't run this through council. I'm assuming, I believe that we signed something with them in the past, that they were using the same council. I believe Greg Corbo was doing this for them. So we'll check with him also.
I fully agree with the chairman, is that it reads that your look back is a full year, but every year it gets adjusted. And the reason why I cite that is in the paragraph, it indicates that Marshfield's going to be adjusted annually. And that is holistically unfair for all the other member communities if they're not. And I understand they do, they don't have a 4-year look back, but my history from the last 3 years, plus this year, next year, that way you're not saddled with a burden. If you have a robust or banner amount of enrollment 1 year, your average is going to be artificially higher, and you normalize, you're going to own that for 4 years, doesn't seem logical.
I actually got more confused by the Marshfield line because it specified Marshfield would be every year and doesn't specify what any of the other towns were. So I assumed, based on the Marshfield one, that it would be every year, but it also made it more confusing to me, so.
Well, and this
Does the
isn't the,
explanation make it any clearer?
I-
Or is
well, that is the
That's part of-
explanation.
Yeah,
explanation.
that's in the explanation.
But is that maybe their explanation and not legal counsel's explanation?
It was
But
not
again-
my explanation.
again,
put it that way.
Right.
If we are meeting on the 23rd, Superintendent Tom Hickey is available to come and talk with us, and he has emailed me, he does want to come and talk with us about this, so.
Your verbal explanation was clear.
Yeah.
Until we read the actual explanation.
In the case, it makes sense, otherwise Marshfield gets a free ride for,
Right. Yeah,
you know, especially if there's a new.
if it were done right now, Marshfield would be paying next to nothing
Yeah,
for the entirety of the project,
yeah,
so.
but to.
And whoever the new, like, if a new community came in after we'd taken the snapshot, the new community, in theory at least, wouldn't pay anything toward it.
All right, well,
So,
except that an amendment to the regional agreement would be necessary, and I think
Before you do
it may be brought up
correct.
by every town that has
But-
to approve it.
Under the parameters as they are. So. Any other questions on Article 1 at the moment? Article 2 is community preservation budget. It looks like they would like to use
Yeah, and I don't,
$10,000 from their reserves, of which you don't happen to have those numbers.
I don't have the
offhand.
number, but
It's
plenty.
It's several hundred thousand
Yeah.
in
That-
in
that
reserves, if not
language is-
over $1 million.
the language that is on there is not what would be used. I kind of needed
It's just,
something.
just as
a
a, just as
placeholder.
a general ballpark, is,
Yeah.
is the 10,000 correct? Is that what they're actually looking to use? Okay.
Yeah.
So, a relatively small amount of their savings that they have for the community preservation budget to be used for the softball field, which
Yeah.
is next to the big project that they're doing that we passed at town meeting
Other side of the
this
pond.
past spring. So,
And it was actually something we did look at when the dugouts, the new dugouts and the scoreboard went in. We did actually have some money at that time we used for fencing and things like that. And we did notice, and had we had enough money, we would have done the fields then, because it really would finish the project up. It needs it. It's actually it's a good plan. With that being done and some other things that are happening down there, that whole sort of sports complex is gonna be in very nice shape.
and I think any of us who have followed Abington girls softball know that the program has certainly earned it and deserves it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is it for the items on the town, the special town meeting warrant. Any other questions on either of those, points on either of those, or anything else relative to the fall special town meeting? Which will, once again, be on Monday, November 25th at 7 PM in the auditorium of the middle high school.
Yep.
Come on down.
We will have candy and we will have
Well, candy,
tablecloths.
Much appreciated.
candy and lawyers.
Table skirts.
Table skirts.
That
Table
too.
skirts is the,
Yep. All right, next item on our agenda are liaisons, assigning our liaisons for fiscal year '25. I can do a quick run through as Daniel has
I don't know if you noticed
provided.
anything when I,
Daniel's already, yeah, we had some changes mid-year
so
with
we'd probably just start fresh with.
people who left, but, so Board of Selectmen, the Capital Committee, is the Capital Committee still going?
Get rid of them.
Okay. We can take that off of the
Yeah,
list.
they may come back someday.
Well, actually, I didn't even have them on the list. Abington CAM, the Accountant, Assessor, and Treasurer Collector, the Board of Health, Building Inspector, Council on Aging. Council on Aging, DPW, Fire, Golf, IT, Library, Planning Board, Police, Schools, South Shore VOTEC, Town Clerk, Veterans Agent, and Water. So,
Atlanta Police, are you gonna, unless somebody else wants to be primary on them?
any,
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
anybody want to fight Barbara for
I would like
primary
police.
on the police department?
I'll do police, I'll be primary for police, unless someone else.
I'm sure they're not gonna fight.
Had a burning desire.
I'll be secondary on that.
I'll do council on aging since I'm aged.
I'd do secondary on that.
I'd like schools, Matt, please. And the veterans agent for obvious reasons.
I'll take second on that for obvious reasons.
I like taking part on Veterans Agent, but I'll defer to the veteran.
Thank you.
So,
I'd like library, please.
I would love to be secondary.
sorry, who was second on schools?
No one yet.
Okay.
If nobody will do it, I will
We
do
can, we
second on
can,
schools.
we can wait,
for
we
you,
can
Matt.
see,
Yeah,
his, let me see, 1, 2, 3.
We haven't heard from the,
5,
does he
6,
explain what the
7.
liaison assignments are? So she knows?
So there are 18, there are 18, so everyone should be primary for about two or three, and secondary for about 2 or 3. The liaisons will check in occasionally with the heads of the department, and especially when we're going through the budget and are scheduling the department heads to come in and meet with us to go over their budgets, we'll reach out beforehand, check and see if there's any questions that the department has for us, that we have for the department, and really in general at any point during the year, work with the department to make sure that any issues that they or we have get addressed. If, especially during the budget process, if we've already met with the department and we then later in the budget process have questions for the department, the liaison will typically reach out and say, hey, do you have the answers, or do you want to come back into a meeting or something? So,
Yes, sometimes Abby too, if like a department's brought up at a meeting and we're having a discussion about something, that you feel like, oh, I should give the department head a heads up that we had this discussion. You can always touch base and just reach out with an email or phone call.
And a really good example was my first year, I was secondary on the school with Paul Haggerty. And we had a ton of questions here internally. And what Paul and I did was we met with them and we told them what the committee had for questions, which better prepped them for their meeting with us so they could address the questions in addition to what they were already planning to talk about. So it worked out really well. I miss Paul.
Mr. Chairman, I'll
Yes.
put my hat in for Social Tech and Town Clerk.
That's where I thought he was going to.
That's, I was with,
I don't need that. Can't liaise.
All right. Abington Cam. I'll just start working down the list now.
Well,
Chris?
Two for me.
They're not actually gonna be in front of you anymore.
No?
No, I mean, it's,
Well, I'll absolutely support Chris with that, Mr. Chairman.
it's, I mean, the way that the fund works now, it just,
Moving over to the way that it works now
Yeah.
was kind of a big deal, but now that it's
done.
set, it's kind of done.
And actually, we've done, we did an actual contract with them on different things that the town expects throughout this, so, I mean, there's really no reason Not like we had a lot of say in it anyway, so I
Yep.
don't see any sense in bringing them here.
So. Accountant, assessor, treasurer, collector. I can take first on this. Anyone want to back me up there?
I'll do it. Well, I'm already at 2 secondary stuff.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, 3 each?
2 to 3.
I can do it.
2 is probably,
Okay.
we can stop volunteering for secondaries now.
Yeah.
Board of Health.
We'll do Board of Health.
I'll
I'm
second
gonna,
that.
I'm gonna change my department head list, which listed Marty as the head of the Board of Health. I don't think that's the case.
Many years now.
Abby said she'd.
The effects are still.
Building inspector, Daniel asked for that. Anyone like to?
I'll back
second
up on that.
All right, you can stop volunteering for
Thank
secretary.
you.
Trying.
DPW, Mr. Belazarian, you want to keep
Sure.
doing DPW?
Sounds great.
I'll second you on that one there, Greg.
Fire,
I'll take fire. I think I have 1 primary.
I can second on fire.
and I do think maybe like 1 first for Abby, probably not a bunch of firsts in your first year. So. Golf,
I'll definitely do that.
Literally the easiest one, it's not named Abby.
I'll back Greg up on that. IT,
How's it might be? He knows what he's doing.
Does.
He just goes on,
anybody
yeah.
want
He needs
to,
anything.
anybody want to back Chris up there?
What's our limit here? I'm at 2 and 2 already.
You're probably good.
I think I'm good.
Could maybe take 1 more primary if we're gonna,
If we need.
people can fight over 1 more primary if we're gonna keep Abby's primaries
Okay.
down. But- Sarah, you got anything you're eyeing? We only got a few left there. Well, actually, we already said library. Who did we say was library? That was Sarah and who?
Do we have a second for school?
We do not yet.
I'll tell you that.
I was the second for library.
Okay. So, planning board and water. And a second for a few things.
I'll take the planning board.
I'll second for water, but I.
Greg, you want to take water?
Sound good to you, Greg?
No.
Water?
I don't know, if you're saying yes, I'm saying no.
I was second, and I was gonna
She
back
was
you up
close.
on it.
Oh, all right,
Yeah.
sounds good. I didn't know if I was getting locked into like that.
You kinda did,
All
but.
right, that's great.
So we need seconds for IT, South Shore VOTEC, and town clerk.
I'll second the IT.
I'll second the town clerk.
Oh, and planning board, sorry.
I'll second planning board.
Second. Abby, planning board or South Shore VOTEC? Which sounds better to you?
Planning board?
And then South Shore VOTEC, I can take second on that. All right, thank you, everybody. Hit save, I'll send that out to everybody so that we all have it.
Thank you.
Send that out after I remember who remembers who we elected as secretary and
I was trying to remember that
statisticians?
too. I'm one of the statisticians, I know that.
Chris,
I
were you
have
the,
it written
were you the
down.
first statistician?
Yes.
I thought so. So Chris and Daniel as statisticians. I don't remember who we said was the secretary. It was somebody that didn't show up.
That's true.
I think you left. I think it was Andrew.
Might have been.
Yeah, I think it was Andrew.
It might have been Andrew.
That's
Might
what
have
did
been. It also might have been Marty.
I think it was Marty.
No, it certainly was not.
Did you miss a meeting?
Probably,
Might have been Marty because he wasn't there.
prepared for the worst term of secretary.
I don't know, I had a pretty bad term, is that what
No, we're still getting minutes, right?
We are. The minutes have been very good.
Must have been in the correspondence file.
As well. Minutes gate has ended.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. Minutes for July's meeting. Secretary Marty Golightly.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You. Great group of people. Andrew, is that budget link?
What exactly do you think the secretary's doing?
I can tell you what it's not doing.
To be honest, it's the second most powerful position in the committee. You can convene a meeting at your discretion, or you can abruptly end it.
Go for it.
No
That
pressure.
was really helpful.
It's the abruptly ending.
Yeah,
I'm gonna lean into that one.
Lean.
a little support.
About the Abington Cam for an hour and a half, like we did a couple of years ago, you can end it.
Boy can dream.
There's another person gone.
That's what I get for not showing up to that one meeting.
That one,
One meeting that I've missed.
Yeah, I missed the same meeting and I'm a co-chair.
Vice.
vice
Give
chair,
it, give
vice
it,
chair.
give it a little bit before you're co-chair. Wait till basketball season, when I have a bunch of Wednesday practices for my daughter's team. All right, that is it for liaisons. We just assigned liaisons, but do we have any liaison reports?
Yeah.
Has anyone talked to departments over the last month or so? Okay. As already mentioned, have not checked correspondence. We'll check that.
Probably that past due bill that you checked last time.
I hate it.
Okay, it's not in there then.
All right. I believe at the last meeting, we didn't approve minutes. So we have the minutes from our July 10th meeting to review and vote on. Marty
We want that.
and
We're gonna have people
Barbara.
abstain.
Marty and Barbara were excused from that meeting and amazingly found themselves in positions of power on the committee. Funny.
I don't know about
funny-
power.
Funny how that happened.
Did you send those out?
They were sent out, yes. They were sent out on September 16th to the committee. So Abby hasn't got them, but Abby also was not at that meeting to be able to vote on them.
September 16th.
So it's
13th.
anyone have any amendments, adjustments, motions?
Motion for acceptance of the July 2024 meeting of the Finance Committee.
Motion by Dr. Tyler,
Second?
second from Chris. Any discussion?
I'm really glad we voted in our secretary and vice chair. It was a very strong move.
I agree.
Put forth by Greg B. Just want to put that, I was opposed, but Greg convinced me.
I believe Greg.
I watched the meeting.
I believe-
so
I believe-
I just want to let you know.
I believe Greg was.
That is
also-
not how it went
I believe
down.
Greg was also nominated for vice chair, so.
I was there also.
So, any further comments or discussion on the meeting minutes of July 10th, 2024? Without any, all those in favor of approving the minutes? All those opposed, abstaining? So the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Our last agenda item for tonight is discussing our next meeting. Can everyone do the 23rd, 2 weeks from tonight?
Yes, I can.
It's already on my calendar.
We're back home against Hull, so absolutely.
Which sport is at home against Hull?
Women's soccer.
Okay. Nice. All right, so October 23rd will be our next meeting. I will reach out to South Shore Vortex Superintendent Tom Hickey to let him know that we are on for then, and he should be joining us for that. Do we want a representative from the Community Preservation Committee to come to that one to explain the project?
Or would it be CPA or Kelly?
It would
Kelly's
probably
on
be Kelly,
CPA, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think if anybody was to come, it would likely
Yeah.
be Kelly and over the chairs.
so if you.
I will extend that
If you could
invitation.
extend the invitation, that would be great. Anyone or anything else that we would want to have come to that meeting? All right. Sounds like we're good there. That takes us to the end of our agenda for the evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Let's celebrate the Westland Hours while we can.